everybody, what's up? Hello, I am here today in an empty room because I still haven't gotten this room set up yet, but it's the only room that I have right now to film in while toddler sleeps and husband is doing his thing in the living room. So I thought I would come to you with a book haul to share with you all. I'm breaking this book haul into two parts because it is all the books that I have collected that are new to me within 2025, and there were too many for me to film all at one time. So this is going to be the nonfiction portion, and then I'm going to do another fiction portion soon. So yeah, I thought we could just go ahead and get into them and do a little bit of a chatty talk about some of them. If you've read any of these, I would love to hear your thoughts on them below. If you have any critiques of these, also love to hear your thoughts on that below. Look, I think there's no denying that my reading at this point is extremely political. All reading and writing is political inherently, but my particular interests are especially deemed political by many others. So if that isn't your thing, if you're going to find yourself getting triggered or overwhelmed, then maybe this video isn't for you, and that's just what it is. Most of these have to do with social critique, history, that sort of a thing, but I do have a couple of exceptions, so maybe I'll share those first. And the first one that I have here is The Self-Sufficiency Garden by Richards and Cooper. And this is essentially just a book about exactly what it says, like how to start to garden for like your family and for like your small community. Where I live now, there are some gardening plots close by because I don't live in my own home currently, but there are some gardening plots nearby that I want to make use of. And also, I know this sounds a little paranoid, but I do think more and more that it is going to be vital that we become informed about more self-sustaining methods of survival. I don't mean get a bunker and stock up on things, but what I do mean is I think, need to expand our knowledge collectively with regard to how to repair things and make things last, how to grow things, how to become more sufficient with nature and with the means that we already have. And so I am horrible with plants, and so that is the area that I'm looking to expand right now. I'm also looking into I want to get into like sewing and learning how to create like clothing and other kinds of things, but I don't know why that just seems so difficult to me, and that seems like a skill that I won't be good at or won't know how to do, and so I have to get over the mental hurdle of like thinking I can't do it, which is always my go-to thought process, and I hate that, but that's okay. I understand where it comes from and I can override it with practice. So I'm going to eventually be looking for some books and videos, probably more videos to start with, about sewing. So if you have any recommendations, also please let me know, or if you have any ideas of like where to start, let me know, because it's a pretty overwhelming topic to me, and I also have zero material, so I also kind of need to know like what are the basics, and I need to just get started. So yeah, but for now I have this book here, and you know, I said that I had a couple outliers, but I actually think that's the only outlier. Everything else is social commentary, history, that sort of a thing. So I'll get into, I actually have 4 children's nonfiction books about history, and I purchased these because on Book Outlet they were on sale for super cheap, like $3 or $4 each, and I don't know anything about these, about their accuracy or anything like that, so I'm looking forward to reading them, but I picked these up to have in my home library for my kiddos as they get older. So they're the Race to the Truth series. So I have Race to the Truth, Colonization and the Wampanoag Story by Linda Coombs, which talks about the discovery of America as told by the Pilgrims and colonists, is what we usually hear, but this is the true story about America's earliest days from the perspective of the Wampanoag and Southern New England tribes. I also have The Exclusion and the Chinese American Story. I'm sorry, words are hard today, but by Sarah Soon-Ling Blackburn. And this is the Chinese history in the United States from the Chinese American perspective. Slavery in the African American Story by Patricia Williams Dockery. Again, this is the history of the enslaved Africans in America from their perspective. And then finally, Borderlands and the Mexican American Story from the perspective of Mexican Americans. And so within this book, they have a bunch of different like subsections, and I haven't gone through them enough to know what they have, but I'm going to be going through each of these and kind of evaluating them in terms of use for my child. Again, I don't trust that our system will teach my child accurate history even before all the changes, and certainly not now. And so I think it is my duty as a parent to raise an aware and conscientious child. And so I'm looking for all kinds of resources to help me do that and for her to have access to. So again, if you have any resources that are reliable, accurate, especially if they're from the sources with like for example, they're not all like from like the white American perspective, let me know. Beyond that, I also purchased this book, which is The Women's History of the Modern World, How Radicals, Rebels, and Every Woman Revolutionized the Last 200 years by Rosalind Miles. And I really don't know much about this book other than that I just keep hearing about how it's a really interesting look at women who we typically don't hear about in history and the profound impacts that they have made. It says, now is the time for a new women's history, for the famous, infamous, and unsung women to get their due, from the French Revolution to the Me Too movement. It talks about different women such as Dowager Empress Sixty, Eugenia Charles, Indira Gandhi, Jacinda Ardern, Ella Johnson Sirleaf, Kate Shepard, Carrie Chapman Catt, Anna Stout, Dorothy Height, Shirley Chisholm, Winnie Mandela, Jocelyn Bell Burnell, Rosalind Franklin, Sophia Kovalevskaya, Marie Curie, and Ada Lovelace. And also Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and some other women that I don't know how to pronounce their names. So I'm really looking forward to this, to learning some new things. And so this one will be started soon, probably. The next one is a book that I purchased from Pango Books, which is Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen. I've heard this is a really good book to understand a little bit more about asexuality, what it is, and maybe some of the things that we take for granted about sexuality. And admittedly, like, I know that asexuality is a thing, but I haven't really heard, I was gonna say much, but perhaps any experiences from a person who identifies as asexual, or I would imagine there's some kind of spectrum along with that. I don't know, I'll find out. But so I'm looking forward to reading about this. I don't really know anything about it other than that I've heard it's a really, really good kind of exploration of asexuality. So yeah, let me know if any of you have read this and what you think. From Verso Books, I ordered The Palestine Laboratory, How Israel Exports the Technology of Occupation Around the World by Anthony Lowenstein. I started to read this. I had checked it out from the library, and it was one of those books that I kept going on thought tangents every single time I would start to read it, and so I had to return to the library. So I just decided to get it. And every single time I was like, well, maybe I'll read that later, maybe I'll read that later. Some nonfiction reader who posts on YouTube will say how phenomenal, and by phenomenal I mean like important it is, and how insightful it is. And so I decided to just pick it up for myself so I can read it at my own rate. So yes, this one I would say I'm looking forward to getting into, but that's only partly true. This one I think is going to be difficult, but it's very important. So two books that I'm really excited to have in my collection that I also picked up from Pango Books from two different sellers, but one is Zammy, A New Spelling of My Name, a biomythography by Audre Lorde, and Sister Outsider, Essays and Speeches by Audre Lorde. Now I have a collection of essays, speeches, and poems by Audre Lorde that was compiled by, I can't remember if Roxane Gay like helped compile it or if she just wrote like the introduction for it. But I've talked about it on my channel before, and I loved it. I love Audre Lorde's writing. I think she is, for me, one of my favorite writers. But Audre Lorde's writing, I think, really sucker punches me in the gut in very meaningful and enjoyable ways. When I read her writing, I often just like feel these profound mixed feelings that often make me cry, just because as a human I think she is so she has such a impeccable way of conveying the human experience, and her specific experiences as a Black lesbian poet, mother, warrior, like all of these things that she identified herself as. And many of which, though not all obviously, are relatable to me, but even the parts that aren't relatable to me, I learn so much from the way that she so clearly and deeply writes about her experience, and the way she, without hesitation, tells people, and not from a place of superiority or hierarchy or authority, but she just so clearly like tells people to our faces what it is that we need to work on. And I really appreciate her clarity, and appreciate the things that I've learned from her that I need to continue to work on and work harder on. And so I'm really excited to have these. I also think they're just like beautiful like additions. So I haven't gone through Sister Outsider to see which of these I've already read, but regardless, I'll reread them because her words just hit every time. Like, to me, her writing is writing that you will reread over and over and over and over again, because the lessons are so important. And also, I have no idea really what to expect of Zami, but I heard that she wrote this biomythography, which I know what it is, but I don't really know what it means in application. But I don't know anything about it other than that, but I'm interested in reading and kind of seeing about it. So yeah. The next book that I picked up is Cobalt Red, How the Blood of the Congo Powers Our Lives by Siddhartha Takara. And this is a book I've been meaning to read for a while. I hadn't picked it up yet, but I found it on Book Outlet for a reasonable price. So I picked it up, and I also really, really want to read this book. Hearing a little bit about this book and learning a little bit more about the cobalt, and how it essentially powers every single tech thing that we have, and that it pretty much only comes from the Congo, if I'm not mistaken, or like that area of Africa. It really has changed it really has changed my relationship with technology. I've never been one of those people who always needed the most up-to-date phone or the most up-to-date tech. However, I think I used to like upgrade just kind of like casually, like when they offered me an upgrade because I could, and I was like, sure, why not? My phone's like lagging a little bit, and that's annoying. Whereas now, kind of being more aware, I'm much more intentional with that. My phone will not be upgraded until it absolutely has to be. And honestly, again, I know this sounds a little bit extra, but at that point I'm thinking about going back to a non-smartphone for lots of privacy reasons, but also because I hate the way that I've noticed that having access to this level of technology at my hand at all points in time has changed the way that I think and function in the world. And though I do engage in certain behaviors to try to mitigate that, I don't have to put as much cognitive effort into doing that on my own if I don't have it available to me. But anyways, I really do think that this book is going to be very, very important. And I'm also hesitant to read it because last year I think I finished King Leopold's Ghost, which talks about King Leopold of Belgium's disgusting abuses in the Congo. And I felt that book viscerally, still to this day, when I think about just like the genocide of the people and the disgusting exploitation and the dehumanization. I still have images in my head of descriptions that the author wrote about, of the ways that he treated the Congolese people, directly and indirectly. And so it breaks my heart to know that we're still exploiting them to a disgusting extent, and most people don't know about it, don't talk about it, because as I continue to learn about history and the present, it really does seem that the Western world doesn't really care about genocide if it can profit or benefit from it in some other way. And oftentimes those places are people who are pigmented and aren't white, Western, so on and so forth. And so again, it's one of those books that I know is an important read, but one that like my gut is like, Tiffany, oh, this is gonna suck. And the reality is that history and the present has a lot of suckiness. So it doesn't mean that I don't think it's important to read. Oh, I just saw actually that Adam Hochschild, who wrote King Leopold's Ghost, made a little quote about it and says, "Extraordinary. I hope policymakers on every continent will read this book." They won't. They don't care. Again, they will be willfully or pretend to be ignorant about it if they can benefit, but regardless. Speaking of willful ignorance, I also picked up a copy of Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. I actually listened to this book on audiobook, but wanted to have it on my shelf and wanted to go through some of the stats again. But this is a very succinct and very poignant book talking about the conditions of poverty in America and how and why it's not only preventable, like very easily preventable or very easily curable, I guess, but it's intentionally left the way that it is. People are intentionally left in poverty because there is a benefit to some. And so honestly, I should probably read this again because I forgot a lot of the points and the data in this, which is why I purchased it. But this book is really, really good, and I highly recommend this book to be read by anybody who really wants to kind of gain a little bit more awareness of class disparities and the nature of poverty in America and how and why it is the way that it is. When you look at the amount of wealth this nation possesses, it doesn't really like make sense for it to be there. And so if you want to know a little bit more, I highly recommend this book. And last but not least, I'm going to share two books that I got from the most recent Haymark Publishing. So I recently decided to, while I can, be a part of Haymarket Publishing's book club, where you pay $30 a month and it helps fund their publishing. They publish so many good books critiquing our systems, and so I wanted to support them in any way that I could. They also give out so many free books, and over the years when I couldn't like when my needs were more restricted, I took advantage of that, and I have so many free ebooks from them. And so now I'm like, okay, like I want to give back a little bit. And so I have It's Not That Radical, Climate Action to Transform Our World by Michaela Loach, and Their End is Our Beginning, Cops, Capitalism, and Abolition by Brian Bean. I don't really know much about these except for the titles, and that they're from Haymarket, but honestly, pretty much all I need to know about that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into these as well. So that is all that I have for today's nonfiction part of the book haul. Please let me know again if you've read any of these or if any of these seem particularly interesting to you. And then look out for a fiction book haul coming soon. In the meantime, it was nice to chat with you all. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments below. Please take good care of yourselves, and I hope to see you real soon.